So, welcome everybody. Welcome to this live session with me, Healing with Marcus. My name is Marcus. I also go by Shaman Marcus. This is Blue. Blue is sometimes in a really good mood, and sometimes he likes to bite my fingers. But he's a very friendly little bird, and he loves to hang out. So, I see somebody's on here. Welcome on board. If you want to chat, feel free to send me a chat message. It's a public one, so we'll all see what is going on there. But anybody who comes on here can send a chat message, ask questions, or whatever you feel like you want to share. Today's theme and topic, the theme is Lightworkers Unite. And what it's coming down to is for people like me. I do a lot of shamanism, shaman work. I work in the spiritual realm. I help people heal. And I also, my intention is to help society as a whole to heal. All of us to heal as much as we can. Now, I'm going to put this a little closer so there's a little more light going on, because it looks like the image is a little bit... Hang on, let me see what I can do here. No, that's not good. That's not good. That's better, but a little stronger. So maybe we get some more light here. So, like I said, my work is to help heal you as an individual and humanity as a whole. I'm here to help the vibratory field of our world to get stronger and more activated. And we can step out of what many of us are calling the Matrix. Now, we remember the movie The Matrix, which was a huge deal back in 1998. And then from there on, or 99 maybe, possibly. And from there on, our society has changed. A lot of things have happened. And the way everything is moving, we can see that we are living in a different world now than 20 years ago. So for the people who know me, if you know me, I do a lot of shaman work. I do a lot of spiritual talks, right? And I talk much about our inner life and our connection to spirit, connection to power animals, spirit guides, connection to what entrainment is, all these things, right? But I have not been very openly political, and I'm not going to be political today either. But I am going to be a little bit inflammatory. And I don't mean that to insult anybody. I don't mean that to be against anybody in particular. No president, no person in particular. But I am doing this because I feel like it's time for us all to begin to communicate and to maybe speak up. And it's not about, standing on a soapbox and go crazy, even though, of course, we all have a chance to do that here on YouTube. This is more... But speaking about the deeper truths that I have found through the latest journeys that I've been doing, I do a lot of deep going, both meditations, and I do sacred medicine journeys. And those are psychedelic in nature, and they take me and clients and other people into a deeper realm, a multidimensional reality. And from that space, sometimes we get a chance to get messages. A lot of times we learn about ourselves, and sometimes we learn about the world we're in. And hi again, I see somebody on there. Welcome on board. Feel free to write and say hi on the chat if you feel like it. I am drinking my cacao, Ken Allen. And this cacao is not as thick as the one I got you the other day. And I'm glad you made it on here, man. I'm glad you got on here, Ken. So, like I just said, it's going to be a little more political today. It's going to be a little more inflammatory, and it's going to be a little more coming out of a shell. And this is not so that, not to encourage any kind of negativity in our society, but it is to point out things that are absolutely 100% going against both free speech, 100% going against human rights, 100% going against the individual rights in our world. And again, not to be political, I'm not trying to take sides, but I am trying to say that we are wanting to wake up. This is a wake-up call. Today is a wake-up call for light workers to unite, which means, of course, people who work with the light, people who are in tune with their own inner light, people who are in tune with their own heart message, whatever they feel. Welcome on board, the rest of you who are on here. I'm glad you joined. You feel free to write and say hi on the chat. So when we are in touch with our heart and the light inside of us, most of us have felt for a very long time, I have felt my whole life, that there was a reason that I was supposed to be a part of a bigger movement. And I bet you that more people feel that way. I bet you that you might have felt that way too. That in your heart of hearts, that in the deep down inside of you, you've known that you were meant for some sort, you were meant to play a role here. There is a reason for us being here. To me, it's becoming clear that that reason is to stand our ground. It's to stand tall as a human being, as a person. And the way we can do that is to move our attention into ourselves, move our awareness into our hearts, and ground ourselves into Earth Mother. Stand strong. Because the thing is also, when you ground yourself into Earth Mother, when you start to realize that you have your own inner power, you are connected to Earth Mother yourself. When you connect those dots, we don't need other people to tell us that we're good enough. We don't need anybody else from the outside to come in and say, you are good now, Marcus. You don't need a boss to pat you on the head. You don't need a parent to pat you on the head. You don't need a spouse or siblings or whatever it might be. And I'm not saying we need to rebel against everybody. We don't need to do that. We just need to be strong in ourselves, in conviction, in our own lives about the world. And we do that through meditation. We do that through coming back home into the heart. We do it through doing the meditation on the rooting of our root chakra, grounding of our root chakra into Earth Mother. And on that level, when you do that, you realize that you are a strong, powerful individual that you have all rights, the same rights as anybody else to walk this earth, to stand tall. You have no obligation to put anything into your system that you don't want in your system. It's very, very important. It's very, very important not to put something in your body that you don't feel called to put in your body. And that's what I mean when I say that this goes against all human rights. It goes against all human decency. To force people injecting a substance into their body that they don't want is in many ways like a rape. It's very, very, very unpleasant. And if somebody doesn't feel like doing that, I am completely for you are not doing that. And if you have done it, I am never going to judge you for doing it. I would like to encourage you to be as healthy as you can, stay strong, stay healthy. And I would encourage maybe not more of the things that they keep pushing on us after the initial jab situation. So what we have, since this is more of a little more of an inflammatory talk, a little more political in nature, we are not going to really, at least not right now, sit with a drum and all of this. We're sitting with our deeper space. And we're also sitting in this space of knowing that as we are being called into a form of resistance, we're being called into standing our own ground in our own lives. We're also getting called to trying to be as physically healthy as we can, to try to clear out our own act so we get stronger, because we don't know what's around the corner. We don't know what's coming around the corner right now. All I know is that what has been showing up is that it is time to get in shape. It's time to clear out my own inner system, so that when whatever is coming around the corner, when it hits, it's not going to hit so hard. We were fairly, I feel like, even though there had been many people talking about the situation that happened a year and a half ago, um, with the V spreading across our world, I feel like, we were pretty unprepared for what was coming. And now I would like to encourage more of us to be a little more prepared, to just get back in shape. And that means both physical shape and spiritual, mental shape, so that we can discern for ourselves when something comes our way that we would like to listen to or not. Because what we have going on in the world right now is a complete and utter propaganda machine. There's absolutely no truth behind what's going on in the world right now. When you're not allowed to question, the video that I'm making now may very well be taken down. I don't know. Hopefully it won't, because I'm avoiding saying certain words. But when you live in a society where you can't question certain things, where we're not allowed to say, well, what about this scientist over here? He's saying something else. What about that scientist over there? He's saying something else too. When we're not allowed to say that publicly without getting either slandered or shut down or banned, that's called propaganda. And that kind of propaganda was going on almost 100 years ago in Germany. That kind of propaganda was going on in Russia, in communist Russia, where they killed 10, I think it's either 20 million people died in Russia. About 6 million people died during the Nazis, and in the camps, right? But what people thought they were doing the right thing. Why the world was not protesting? Because if you think about history, you look back on history and you see when Hitler came into power, and when the war in America or in Europe started, when Germany went into Austria, there were almost no other countries that complained or protested or said, no, they can't do that. The only country that I know of that protested when Germany occupied Austria, which was the first country they rolled into, which wasn't that hard. It was their neighbor country, and they were very closely related and tied together. But when Germany invaded Austria, the only country that protested was Mexico. Of all countries, it was Mexico. The US didn't say anything. The rest of the European countries didn't say anything. No other country spoke up. And if that happened today, we'd be a little kind of concerned with why didn't anybody say something? The Nazis didn't look very friendly. They didn't seem very friendly, but no other country said anything. And we could dare to look at that. They might have been in agreement at that time with Germany. They might have been in agreement that a certain population, a group of population wasn't wasn't what they wanted. I don't know this for sure. But the only way it could have happened that way, because it was pretty obvious what Hitler was all about. He was very openly speaking about how the Jewish people were not, wanted, right? He openly spoke about it. They created the ghettos quite early, way before the war started. No other countries were speaking up. No other countries were saying, even when the war really started, the countries didn't say much. The US didn't get involved until they got bombed. So you start to wonder what was really going on. And then we can also see that in order for that to happen, in order for the Jewish population, for the Jewish people to be so persecuted and so heavily like killed and bullied by the world, by the Germans, the Nazis, not the Germans, the Nazis. Let me use that phrase correctly. But when that was going on, we must have been aware that at least Hitler was not for the Jewish people, that he was very much against them. And for nobody to protest means that they agreed silently or agreed openly with that policy. And when we look at what's going on in our world now, the division that's happening, the people who are for or against something, or if you even mention that you have not gotten Aunt V, which I would like to Auntie V, the jab, that we haven't gotten, the people who haven't gotten it. When I say that to some people, they look at me and then suddenly they get that glaze in front of their eyes. And I'm suddenly a part of a group of crazies. I'm suddenly a part of a group that doesn't want well for the world. Suddenly I'm part of the bad people. And that goes a second from having been very close to like that. So when we look at what's going on now, is that we're separating, and the pressure in society and the propaganda machinery is creating a world where if you have done the unselfish act that they call it an unselfish act of taking a jab, injecting something into your system that you may or may not have wanted in the first place, that you did it to be, in solidarity with everybody else, and to feel safe, right? When that message has come so strongly across that you're not safe unless you do what we tell you to do, that you're not safe unless you follow these directives. And if you break it down, if you start to look at what's going on, I'm going to be very open here, and I'm sorry if that offends anybody. I'm not here to offend anybody. And I'm not here to go out on, well, I'm going to go a little deep into some things that are going to be very unusual for me to talk about, and it's going to be unusual for some people to hear about, and other people are going to be like, yeah, I know all about that already. But when it comes to what's going on in the society right now is that we're dividing the world into two camps, right? To the right doers who did the unselfish act of injecting something into their system that could make them feel safe. But in order for us all to go along with that, we first must be made to feel very unsafe. We must be made to feel very, very scared that the world is a dangerous place. So the propaganda last year, stay at home and wear a mask, stay at home and wear a mask, stay at home and wear a mask. For me, oh, thank you, Ken. Yeah. That's the thing, like your heart sunk. I understand that, and that's where I am too, right? But a lot of people, what I'd like for us all to understand is that the people who do keep taking the shots, to keep going that direction, they're not evil themselves, right? They're living in fear. And most of the time we can't really hold anybody accountable for living in fear. We can say, please listen to your heart. But we can't really convince them unless they're willing to listen and open up. We can't, because they already bought the red pill, right? They already took the red pill. They didn't take the blue pill. And people who step out of the matrix take the blue pill. We see a little bit differently of the world, right? So when you step outside of the matrix, just here is the matrix. This is kind of one of the big parts of today's talk. When we look at what society is doing around us, and you look at GMOs is in almost all foods we buy at all regular stores, right? Almost all Ralphs around the country, almost all of the Vons and all the grocery stores carry foods that are made with GMO. They're sprayed with pesticides, and they are made with a lot of unhealthy food, right? And we look at the dairy industry. It pumps so much unhealthy stuff into the dairy and into the cows, right? The cows and the calves are suffering like crazy because of how we are pressuring their bodies to produce more and more and more. But we also we put in steroids in their system, and we put in tons of antibiotics in the cows and the pigs and all the other animals we eat, so they will stay healthy enough for us to eat them, right? So they won't get parasites and all that stuff. In every chicken you have that's not organic, they have arsenic. They put arsenic in the chicken feed because that kills the parasites that could live in the stomach of the chicken. And of course, on one level, yeah, sure, we got to be healthy, right? But how we these animals is extremely unhealthy. And what we're putting in our system is a result of that, right? So if you look at the animals, we are very unhealthy with the animals. Then we look at the pesticides in our system, in the world, right? In the Roundup, on all the wheat and all the foods we eat and on all the grounds, we have Roundup and other pesticides. Sarah Riley from New Zealand, Dr. Malone. There you go. That's the thing. So thank you, Sarah, for sharing that. I'm going to just interrupt this thing here, right? So I found some videos. Thank you for saying that very much. I'm just going to be very careful with how we say this, how we phrase these things. But there's been the real people who were behind developing the mRNA vaccine, the people who were working with the Bill Gates Foundation, high up there, real scientists, not half crazies like me, right? Real scientists who have skipped ship. They jumped off, and they are putting out videos on their own. Dr. Michael Yeadon, Gert van den Bosche, which is a Dutch guy, and these guys were high up in the organizations that originally made the on TV, and now they are speaking out strongly against it, saying that no child should ever have it. They're saying that we shouldn't be using these because we're not done, they're not finished. And these are also the ones that are starting, but they're also banned, right? I tried to share a link with one of the Gert van den Bosch, and this video is probably going to be taken down too for me just saying these names, right? But and if you don't get alarmed by me not being able to say a name on YouTube, then you don't see the danger we're in. This is the danger we're in. We're in the complete and utter danger of free speech, which is in turn freedom of humankind, right? So, and because it doesn't matter what you believe in, if you're not allowed to criticize something in our society, we are in deep trouble. We're in deep trouble. Present Grace, good morning, good morning, good morning. Or good evening. I don't know where you are, Present Grace, actually. But so when it comes to, sorry, I lost my train of thought here. So the guys who developed this vaccine, a few of them have jumped off, and they are jumped ship, and they are now speaking out actively against it. They're being banned. I've tried to share one of the on Messenger the other day. I shared a link to that website, and it was inactivated today. The website is still up, but the link that I shared on Messenger, you couldn't find the website through that. And when we live in this kind of society, just like this video might be taken down, it's a very, very dark time we're moving into. And that's why the Lightworkers, people like me, people like you, because I know you are one, we need to be a little bit ready. Not to be ready in a violent way. We got to be ready we got to work out. We got to clear up our diet, clear up our act, clear up. And I know this sounds a little crazy, but I now believe that we got to save up some water in the house, save up some canned food in the house. There's going to be some hard times coming up ahead here. And I not to scare anybody. It's not to be negative, and it's not to be dark. It's just to say that we got to be ready for a shift. And it's in the end, we are probably going to come out all right. But before that, it's going to get a little darker. Because right now, the pressure in our world is getting pretty tough, right? The pressure on people. Oh, there's another Shauna. Now that is funny. Present Grace, your name is Shauna. That is funny. How many people would assume that out of a few people that are attending a talk on YouTube, 2 people are named Shauna? Isn't that interesting? Synchronicities in our world. Synchronicities. So, coming back into ourselves is the key, right? Coming back, learning how to listen to your heart. Ground yourself into Earth Mother. Drink fresh water. Eat good food. I personally do the vegan thing. I always recommend the vegan thing, but I'm not going to tell you that you have to do it. You have to do what's right for you. But I do what's right for me, right? So, thank you, Shauna, and thank you, Sarah. I'm glad you guys are here. So when we talk about the matrix, what I was going to say, one of the main things of the takeaway from today is the matrix is not your friend. The matrix is not your friend. And the interesting thing, at least the way I see it, I never saw it as clearly as it's becoming now, right? It's becoming very clear. I've always been very suspicious of pesticides, of government, of big corporations and all that stuff. But I didn't see the clear picture until the other day when it dawned on me. I mean, I've seen the picture has been growing in this direction. But now, if we really look at how our society looks, we look at it from the outside, and we start to think about, okay, so we have food that is full of unhealthy stuff for the human body. If you want to buy what you think is more healthy, then it's more expensive than the other food, right? The organic stuff is more expensive. Which should be kind of the other way around, because the organic food is nothing's being sprayed on it, nothing's being used on it, but whatever, that's different. Now, we have food that's basically making us sick. We have water. If you don't get your special water somewhere, you have water that's basically making us sick. The regular water in the tap is just beyond any, like, it's really not healthy, right? There's a lot of both fluoride and other kind of like heavy metals in it, both from leaking pipes, but also from what's being put in there. Excuse me. They also have a lot of Roundup in the water, both from nature and from when they spray the big water, where they keep the water. There sometimes grows algae on the water, and that's not good for us to drink. So then they spray it with Roundup right into the drinking water, because Roundup is supposed to be safe for human consumption. Of course, nothing that kills organisms that way is safe to consume the way that they're saying about Roundup. Now, there is other stuff, baking soda, there is vinegar that can be harmful for plants, but it doesn't harm us in the right amounts. But a lot of it will harm us. Too much of it will harm us. So looking at society, we have food, we have water, air is being polluted by the big corporations, right? By the airplanes, by the cars, by the ferries, by everything around us is polluting the air. So our bodies are under attack. If the media was a real honest media, and if the government truly wanted our best, do you really think that all of this that's going on, that is an attack on the human body, how we get sick, would be going on? If the politicians were honest about saying, no, you can't be poisoning our world. No, the ferry lines, the big cruise ships can't let out their waste into the oceans, which they're still doing to a large extent. And no, you can't fish out our oceans. No, you can't kill dolphins and whales. If the politicians were honest, we'd be able to have a completely different world. But unfortunately, both the government and the corporations are very, very closely interrelated. And many politicians, when they're done with a political career, they jump into the private career, and vice versa. We have a system where the matrix is not your or our friend. And it's a very kind of, I find it a harsh truth to wake up to. At the same time, it's a very important truth to begin to wake up to become a little clear that we don't need to be afraid of the things we're being told to be afraid of. They're saying that this invisible thing out there can kill you. And when we look at statistics, it's not that big of a killer. And we look at, if you stay in the sun, you breathe fresh air, you take care of yourself, chances for you to actually die from this thing is very small. Very small. So with a healthy immune system, which is what they should be focusing on, telling us how to survive a thing like this instead of staying at home and wear a mask, then we would be in much better shape. But it seems like the matrix isn't really there to try and help us stay in good shape. They're there to keep us in control. And with that, there are some pretty deep. I know that this is, when I go into this next part of this talk, I know it's a tricky one, because I wouldn't have believed that myself before I had the experiences. But as I ended up getting some experiences on my deep journeys, my psilocybin-led journeys, which I do in a shamanic setting, I go into the multidimensional reality and have some experiences that are very, very unusual and very, very, very deep. And in some of them, I was shown how the on TV, is a instrument for a very dark energy and entity to take over our world. Not again, not to scare us, just to kind of be clear, to be mindful, to be careful, to be healthy, to be self-loving, and to not listen to everything that the matrix, the government, what they tell us. Because at least the way I see it, it looks like a complete lie on many levels. It may not be a lie on every level, and many people are working in the matrix. They don't know. They do what they think is the right thing. But when we come back to when we look at what happened in Germany 100 years ago, just about like a little less than 80, 90 years ago, they were doing their job. The Nazis were doing their job. And it turned out really, really, really bad, right? Even though they were just doing their job. Yes, Shauna, you're right. They never say stay healthy and stay in shape, and if you're overweight, lose some weight. Nope. The interesting thing is that had the government and the authorities and if they really and the media had cared about helping people to be healthy through the situation we have right now, they would have told us to lose the weight, to be in a different place. But that debate was never out there. The numbers are astonishing. 80% of the people who don't survive the current thing are overweight, and not a little bit, like severely overweight, and their hearts are already under a lot of pressure. And the other, and a lot of the people who passed away are over 72 and then over 82, right? So we're not talking about that either. Yes, thank you, Shauna. Yeah, that's the thing. All the Shaunas, thank you, and Sarah. What I was shown in that journey was that it's a very dark force that are taking over our world. And I was shown in the next journey that I did, which was immense. I found myself, and this is where it gets weird, but stay with me if you want. And if you don't want to, there you go. Yes, Sarah Riley. Yes, you're right. They would promote vitamin D and K2 and zinc to help assist. And vitamin A and the other things that can really help us stand up against this stuff, right? And they would even talk about the ivermectin and those things that are actually helping people, even though the government says it's not, but it's truly helping people. So when it comes into the last journey I did, I was able to, I found myself being surrounded by beings that I wasn't really aware of what they were. They looked kind of like lizard people, and I was out somewhere else. I was in space. That much I knew, but I didn't know what was going on. And suddenly, half of them or a few of them started fighting, and a fight broke out in the room where I was, and I became a part of the fight. But I didn't know. And in the fight, I was just fighting, because I when I go into the space, I do a little bit of shape shifting, and it's very tricky. Yeah, they do. You're right, Ken. They are hiding the crap in the vitamins too. Yes. And I stopped eating vitamins a few months ago, and I feel so much better than I have in a very long time. So it's fantastic to see. You're very right, Ken. But in the middle of this, there you go. Yeah, more people die from smoking-related illnesses too. Yeah, that's the other thing. This is not what they're painted out to be, right? So, in this battle I was in, this big fight, I didn't know who was fighting who, but I was just fighting to help out. And then I came back down here, come out of the journey, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what just happened. That was a weird experience because I was questioning if I was fighting on the good side or the bad side. I couldn't make out. And then I was sucked. Then I came back into the journey, went back up, and suddenly there were like lines of fighters, and we were sort of like beast mode, fighting other beasts. And it was a very big battle. I was fighting on the light side. I was fighting on the good side, but there was a lot of people on the other side, a lot of dark sides, a lot of beasts on the dark side. And in that experience, when I came back down, I was very much in shock over what was going on. I was like, holy God, what is this? What is going on here? And then I got sucked back up. I went through more of it. And suddenly it started becoming clear to me what this was. And what I started seeing was that this is the battle between good and evil that they talk about in the Bible and in the Bhagavad-Gita, the old Hindu writing, the oldest written book we know of, like 1700 before Christ or something like that. The Bhagavad-Gita is a big, basically Bible for the Hindus. And it talks about Arjuna being involved with a big battle and warriors, many warriors. Now, I didn't know that was, in my experience, on a multidimensional plane, that was reality. In the human level, on our level of awareness here, there you go. Dr. Malone is trying to push repurposing ivermectin and many others, but ivermectin is out of patent, so hence no money. Yes, you're right, Sarah. That's one part of it, right? There really are throwing ivermectin under the bus. They're saying it's only horse medicine, and they're saying a lot of things about that just aren't true, right? But they're saying it so that they won't sell more of it. But so I came into this space of suddenly understanding much more about the millennia-old battle between good and evil in space. And of course, if I listened to a video that said this, I would go like, oh, Marcus has lost it. He's a little nuts. But it became my experience. And after it became my experience, it was also like, oh shit, this is more real than I ever thought it would be. There's way more reality to any of those deeper teachings. And good diet and outdoors for vitamins. Yep. We'll stop chatting. Oh, no, you're fine. Thank you, Sarah. You're fine. I'm glad you're chatting. Thank you for writing. Thank you. It's nice to have interaction like this. But when we come into the battle between good and evil, what I was shown was that there is a battle between good and evil out in outer space, in the galactic space outside of our Earth, right? And when we are sucked into fear, basically living in the matrix of the system, when we are in the system, which we are taught from childhood, we're taught from childhood, you got to learn these mountains, you got to learn this geography, you got to learn that 1 + 1 is 2, you got to learn whatever else it is, chemistry and history and English and Swedish and whatever else, right? When we're told that, not that it's wrong to learn, but what's wrong is that we think we're good people if we do what we're told. We think we're good people if we follow what the teachers tell us and we get an A in school. That must mean I'm a good person. If my neighbors or my people in my class think that I'm a good student and I can get a good education and I can get a good job, that must mean I'm a good person. And we're mistaken. That's what the matrix wants us to feel. It wants us to feel less than, right? Because we actually, even people who have grade A's in school are usually under a lot of pressure. And they are very insecure, right? And people with the most amount of money are often very unhappy because they are not in touch with their deeper self, right? Money is usually a way to not be in touch. So many times we have been told and taught to only, yes, the obedient serves, and serve is another word for slavery. And that's what we have in our modern day society. And the matrix is just trying to wrench up the knobs a little bit more, the pressure, turn it up a little more with what's going on the last 2 years. It's a lot more now. It's a lot more conformity going on. You got to conform. You got to be like everybody else. You know, you got to sacrifice yourself for the big group. You got to take the Aunt V so everybody else can feel safe, which is, of course, complete and utter lies, right? Because we see how the people who do take the V, unfortunately, still have to wear the thing. They still have to be socially distanced. They still get sick and they still go to the hospital and they still die. So I keep asking, well, is it working that well? This thing you say you're going to have to take more and more shots of. So anyway, what it looks like, I don't want to go on too long here, but what it looks like is that we have our Earth. On the Earth, we have the matrix. This is the system of control put in place. And if you look at history throughout our times, the most modern history, like 2,000-3,000 years, right? You can look at the Roman Empire. You look at the energy of the Roman Empire trying to take over the world. They were invading countries, and then they made the countries part of their own, Roman Empire, and then they kept pushing the boundaries and the borders, invading, right? But the Romans had a pretty like, we're bosses of the world feeling, right? And then Jesus came around, and Jesus was not for the Roman. They hated him, right? And so did many of the Jews, right? There you go. Thank you, Shauna. Yes, Montessori teacher, let the children lead. Yes, absolutely. So it's beautiful, beautiful. So we had Jesus who came in and tried to interrupt everything, and then you had people took his message and they changed it, and that became the Roman Catholic Church. Well, the Roman Catholic Church, even the name itself, says that the Roman energy that was trying to take over the world now became the Roman Catholic Church. And the Roman Catholic Church, even though there's much beauty in it, right? I would never like to say that a church is inherently bad, right? Because the origins are beautiful in every single big religion. The origins are beautiful. But what they have done is they tried to create more oppression. If you don't listen to our words of how God is, then you're going to die. If you don't do this, you're going to be in hell. And that was the next level of, oppression, right? And then in the Middle Ages, the Vikings got, invaded by the Catholic Church, which then became another kind of church, but it was still Christianity. Many of these, then that energy of oppression, it became also the monarchies, right? The kings in each country, they were oppressing all the people, taking taxes from everybody, sucking the life out of people. And the church was doing that job as well. And then where we are now, industrialism showed up. Yeah. And Catholic schools, Catholicism in itself, it wasn't inherently meant to be evil. It just was used for evil purposes. Just like, industrialism wasn't originally meant to be evil, but it became a new way for this energy of oppression to start to take over our world. And I grew up in Sweden. It's a small country. You are supposed to conform. You're supposed to fit in, and many countries have that. Part of why I was so attracted to America was that it didn't have so much of that. It still had some, but not as much as many other countries. Many other countries didn't have that. Like in America, you were still able to follow your heart a little bit more. I know a lot of people may not feel that way when you grew up here, but my experience was that where I grew up was very different. So when it comes into the Catholic school, the energy of oppression that's been in our world, both since, if you look at like Roman Catholic Church became first the Romans, then the Catholic Church, then the Dark Middle Ages, which was Catholic Church really doing the Inquisition, trying to really take over the world. They invaded America, they invaded South America, they invaded Africa, they invaded Australia, they invaded India. Like lots of places were being ravaged by the European need for control. And I think it was the same energy that's used to be in the Romans, that used to be in the Catholic. Like it's the same energy that just moved around. And now it's the state overly, I don't know how to say that, overstately governments and corporations, which used to be called fascism. When governments and corporations are too close together, that used to be called fascism. If you look that up in the dictionary, you'll see that that's one version of fascism. So, but nowadays we don't talk about it because that would probably hit too close to home. But this seems to me to be the new version. And now the wheels have turned up, right? The wheels that we can't question. So just like 500 years ago, if you questioned the church, you would end up we call it the stock. I don't remember what you call it here. The stock of shame, right? You were tied up and people could throw things at you and spit at you. If you were lucky, that's all that happened. If you question the teachings of the church, you might be killed. And now, it looks like we are not too far from that with questioning the teachings of the government and the corporations. Now, let's see what Sarah says. What I've witnessed for years is the many light workers you work with within various institutions, organizations. I used to be a children's minister. Yeah. Oh, I think light workers, I believe, and I'm not trying to cause any separation with this because I'll get to that in a minute. But I don't believe that. I believe that many light workers have meant well their whole life, and that we all end up looking for different ways to express the light we can feel inside of us. So we start working with helping organizations. Or Ken, I know you've been a coach and a helper more of parts of your life. You wanted to help people like crazy. And Sarah, it sounds like you have too. And Present Grace, you're doing it too. You're also helping people. And Shauna, you've been helping people too. Even though you may not recognize it, you have. You were the coach for the kids and all that stuff. That's right. Yep. Infiltrate everywhere. Nothing wrong with like having a faith. And there's nothing wrong with a beautiful connection to God, right? Whatever you call God. The problem is when we say you can't question what I'm saying. The problem comes when a government or anybody says I'm right no matter what you say. Because it's sort of like when we have this thing of going on now in our society now, I can't even mention what I'm talking about because I would probably automatically be taken down, and most likely this would be taken down anyway. Yet I've never called myself Christian, and that was accepted. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Like I'm sure that there are different levels of all of this, but if you look at the streams through our like world across history, if you look at the different currents through history, we can look at seeing how religion was used to oppress people for a long time. Now it's overly governed states, the state powers connected to corporations. They are completely married, immersed. For some of us have been lucky enough to realize that there's something wrong here. Something about the system isn't right. And other people have not. They went down. I believe that people who still listen to the media and the governments and the corporations they bought the message of fear. They bought into, you're not powerful in yourself. You gave away your power. You gave away your feeling of integrity, who you are. And it's not weird. There's nothing wrong with doing that, except we don't understand that we are super powerful ourselves. That's where light workers come in, right? We know there's light deep inside of us. We know that we are immensely powerful given the chance. And the thing is, we are given the chance. We just don't know it. And that's where that's where I help people I try to help people to find their power, find their inner strength so that they can get strong in themselves. And from there, make up your mind. And if you from a power position wants to do whatever, you do whatever. But when we base our things in fear, it's not healthy for anyone. So, like I just said, the matrix is not your friend. We are unfortunately living in a society, there you go, promoter of love, bearer of light. Yeah. One thing that has been the hardest is to challenge of the vaccine mandate to come into New Zealand. No jab, no job. Absolutely. I completely understand, Sarah. And that's why I don't want to hold that against anybody. I would never like to judge. I would like to not judge anybody who had to do what you had to do from your perspective. You did what you had to do. And there's no shame in that. There's no guilt in that. The shame is in the government. The shame is in the people who say you have to do this. That's where the shame is. It's insane. It's insanity. But they, on the other hand, fell victim of the propaganda as well, right? There are many well-meaning people behind this. But on the top, this is not well-meaning. That's the other thing, right? So on my biggest journeys, what I end up understanding is that when you are still in the fear of the matrix, your life force energy is being used by the forces on the dark side out in the battle between good and evil in the galactic forces, right? The dark forces are using fear-driven energy to fuel their beasts, their monsters. And while the light workers, when you free yourself from the matrix, you actually you can volunteer using your energy on the light side of things. And that's how we can end up, if you can step out of the matrix. And that's not about, Sarah, not about like, did you take the jab? You can still step out of the matrix. Just stay healthy. Just make sure you stay healthy, because there could be more nefarious stuff around the V than we know about. There could be more nefarious stuff around the anti-V than what we understand. And I want you to stay healthy, take care of yourself, stay loaded up on good fruits, good vegetables. Like I try to eat kale, asparagus, broccoli, and cauliflower almost every day, but 3, 4 times a week. There you go, Sarah. You're fighting the mandate within. Yes, it does feel like a sacrifice, but to stay inside the walls to help guide. Yeah, absolutely. And you're still a light worker. We can't take that away. That's the thing. It doesn't go away just because you get injected with something. That doesn't mean you're not a light worker anymore. No, I mean, I'm on your side. Whatever you decide, Sarah, I'm on your side. I just want to have the freedom to choose. And I believe we should all have the freedom to choose. And that's where I feel and find that that's where the big evil comes in. When we take away people's freedom of choice. When we do it either by creating pressure in society, by creating mandates, that is evil. Straight up. And somebody told me, like, what side of history do you want to be on? And it's a little bit like that in the long run, not for the individual to take the thing or not, right? No judgment, no judgment, no judgment. And in some countries, like I'm lucky that at least right now I live here in the States, right? I'm in LA. I'm grateful that I because in yes, New Zealand and Australia are in much worse shape. They are so overrun by the government and the non-respect for the individual rights that they, like, just like many parts of Europe is a little bit like that. They just don't respect individuals. Luckily, it's going to, over time, yeah, it is going crazy. And that's, if you can see that, Sarah, then you're still keeping your sanity. And there's no judgment. I really want that to be clear. There's no judgment. On TV is toxic. Yes, absolutely, Ken Allen. Yes, you are right. And that's the thing that, but at the same time, the way that where Sarah lives, it's been mandated that you can't even keep a job if you don't get the on TV. And that to me that is the evil part. Putting out mandates like that, to me, that is the evil part, especially when we have many doctors, many nurses, many scientists, many policemen, firefighters, soldiers are refusing to do it. And they're losing their jobs, some of them, right? But they're refusing to do it. And we should have, like, be a little bit alarmed if we realize that the people who work with health, quite a few of them are refusing it. At least it was that way before the mandates. I don't know how it is now, but I have friends who are doctors who lost their jobs because they refused. But I also know that we all have different life situations. That there's no judgment involved in this. There's only an enlightenment going on. And what I would like to do is to be a part of that enlightenment. I would like for you to be a part of that enlightenment, and I would like for Sarah to feel strong in yourself, even though you did the jab thing, right? And hopefully the second will not be too bad for you, right? Because hopefully you have a healthy body already. Hopefully there's nothing hiding in the body that could get expressed by this, right? But and I think that if we can help you stay healthy through it, I don't think it's the same, right? But the energy behind it, the mandates that are happening, all of that stuff, that is the evil. Well, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for joining this. I'm grateful you're here, and I'm grateful all of us are here. Even we're not that many, but this is a good start. And we'll see how long we can keep this going. My goal, I think, is to help us, to support us, to feel like we can stand strong in what we feel is our truth. Not so much about, like, they are right and they are wrong or whatever. What is your truth? But if we realize and recognize that there are more people who feel this way, then we can actually stand together, and we light workers can unite. It's very, very important, and hopefully we can do this way. So, well, the last thing on that download that I got or the journey that I did was when we are, like, in our world, most layers in the matrix are not run by evil itself, right? They're run by people who live in fear and they don't question things, right? But the top part, the people we don't even know who they are, the people who are above all the others, they are part of the evil circle that is connected into space. And of course, if that's true or not, I couldn't tell you. I can just say what my experience was. As a teacher, I also centered, yeah, absolutely, absolutely present grace. And that's the thing that I would like to say. The don't do the B, the Frank B, the Uncle B. Don't, like, if you can avoid that, that's going to be very important. Um, That's right, Ken. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. And so that's like what I'm trying to say, right? Let's not go deeper into this than what we have to. So if Sarah has to do the second one for keep her job, do that. But as long as they're not mandating Uncle B, because if they mandate that, I would suggest get out. I would suggest find another solution, because there are many people who aren't going to go along with this, right? There are many people. We may have to move to other places where there is no mandate. There are no mandates. There are places like that, and because it's like, or see if it passes in a year or two or three. Maybe it's passed, or it's gotten that we're into Uncle B number 9 and 10 and 11, and then we can see how long our immune system can hold up. So there you go. Yes, we can unite, and yes, we must stand together as the beating of the drum, as we are all together. Yes, and you said it. And let me just do a little bit of drumming for us all as a kind of a finishing act here. So this is what it comes down to, right? For us as light workers, for us light beings. Ken Allen, I know you're light worker. Sarah Riley, I know Shauna, and I know Shauna. Thank you for being on board here. It comes down to us standing in our truth, standing in your truth, knowing deep in your heart what is real for you, knowing deep inside of your spine, deep in your root chakra, what is right for you. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. I'm glad to see that. The mandate, I hope it passes too. And the Uncle B, yeah, leave that alone. If we can't see that it's crazy already, then with the second, third, fourth Uncle B is gonna maybe show us. So thank you for joining in today's live YouTube talk. I'll be back here at least next week, maybe earlier. We'll see. I'm glad you were here. This is my first live that actually came together. I'm very grateful that we are here. Yes, fear is the most toxic thing, in my opinion. Yes, it attacks even the healthiest immune system. Yes, Shauna. And that's the truth, right? So that's why, even though we don't want to be afraid, either way, if we took the V or not, we don't want to be afraid. That's why I said stay in the sun, go outside, breathe the air that's as fresh as you can find, go into the mountains, go into the woods, go into the waters, eat clean food, drink clean water, breathe fresh air. Love heals all. Absolutely. That's how we raise our vibration. We gotta take those actions. We gotta move into that direction. Spend time in the sun. Don't be afraid of the sun. Don't be afraid. They didn't tell us the truth when they said be afraid of the sun. That is not true. Let me just finish this with I'm sending you off with a few words of the language that I speak, that comes through me on my shamanic path. Thank you, Ken. Love for self, love for others. Love them, for they know not what they do. Absolutely, Ken. Very true. Very true. So I hang on. Here are some unusual words. Daya, 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 Mahio, Daya, Daya. So walk in light, everyone. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, that's right. Yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Happy Saturday night for you guys who are here. I would assume that it's Sunday for you, Sarah, in Australia. Happy Sunday, happy Saturday night. And I'll either see you on IG or on here on Healing with Marcus. Click to subscribe or hit me up somewhere. Thank you, Ken Allen. Thank you, President Grace Shauna. I adore the sun. Love to all on this journey. This was a beautiful meeting of the minds and of the souls. Thank you, Lightworkers. Thank you, thank you. We are standing strong in our light, in our love, in our power. Stand in your power. Yes. That's right. Namaste. And aho. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful, beautiful week. Let's talk soon. Feel free to reach out to me. I'm looking forward to talking more. Bye.